What you are seeing here is the first flight home for the last U.S. combat brigade leaving Iraq. They are leaving Iraq, bound for the United States. This footage was shot just hours ago by NBC's chief foreign correspondent Richard Engel and crew, who are live right now for us in Baghdad. Mr. Engel joins us now where it is in the wee hours of the morning in Baghdad. Richard, thank you so much for getting up so early to talk to us.
It's my pleasure, Rachel. If I get up early, do I get a Mr. Engel? Is that the way it works?
I can call you Uncle, I can call you Professor, whatever you like, Richard. You've earned it at this point. Let me begin with that footage that we just played there. I know you shot that earlier this evening. What specifically are we seeing there?
We're seeing American combat troops, some of the last combat troops that are in this country, getting on a plane tonight and leaving and going home. Now, according to the plan, all American combat troops are supposed to be out of this country by the end of this month, and we are seeing the first flight directly back to the United States of the last combat brigade in Iraq.
What will the U.S. presence look like in Iraq after all of the U.S. combat troops leave this month? Obviously, there's still going to be another 50,000 Americans there, but they are very specifically described as non-combat troops. What will their mission be?
There is not only a new mission, there is an entire new war, if you will. The Operation Iraqi Freedom, OIF, which began with the invasion in March 2003, will end at the end of this month with the end of combat operations. What will start is something called Operation New Dawn, and that is a training mission. There'll be 50,000 American troops here. They'll be working with the Iraqi police, intelligence services, the armed forces to train them, to give them intelligence support, some logistics, and just trying to make sure that the Iraqi security forces can hold on to some stability in this country.
Richard, let me ask you about what General Odierno said to you about the future of Iraq not being up to the U.S., that it's up to the Iraqis. Asking about the deadline to leave Afghanistan next year earns a similar response from U.S. authorities talking about that war now. When you hear that, is that new to you? Is that a change from the way that these wars were talked about during the Bush administration?
What you're hearing now is more trying to put the responsibility on the Iraqis. And I think that comes when you feel that you've done everything you can do. What the U.S. has done right now in this country, they toppled Saddam Hussein. Iraqis are still thankful about that. Saddam was really that bad. They built credible institutions. They built credible Iraqi security forces. And Iraqis and the U.S. military speak with great sincerity when they think that their army right now is infinitely better than it was just a few years ago and infinitely better than it was under Saddam Hussein. But what the U.S. has not been able to do is create government. They have not been able to bring political institutions here or in Afghanistan, and I think there is a realization that is something the U.S. military can't do. The U.S. military can create other militaries, but it can't create political systems that are accepted by people in Iraq or in Central Asia or anywhere else in the world, and I think that is something that they are perhaps just realizing and saying, we can't do it anymore. Now we need some grassroots support.
How does that redound to the standard of living for Iraqi civilians right now, for what it's like just to live in Baghdad or to live in another Iraqi city, not having a functioning government? What's the standard of living like?
Iraqis are furious about this. They accept Saddam is gone. That's good. They accept that their security institutions are better and that life is safer on the streets. But Baghdad is still no place anyone would want to live today. There are only a few hours of power. When the power comes, it arrives in waves and will often blow out any of your electrical appliances. It's not consistent. And there is no one to call. People were coming up to me on the street while I was filming yesterday and saying, where is the government? The United States came and they didn't build a government. Now, the United States will say that's not our responsibility. At some stage, the Iraqis have to step forward and do this for themselves. But there is a real sense of a political vacuum here, that no one is in charge and U.S. troops are leaving. And if you look on the ground, there still is no government. There were elections in this country 5 months ago. The different political parties are still jockeying for positions and haven't been able to agree on a new prime minister. That is a soft spot, is an inherent weakness, and it is something that the U.S. troops and U.S. military commanders are worried about, but can't really do much about.
Well, that dissatisfaction in that vacuum, is it possible that that will lead to instability? Is it possible that civil war comes back to Iraq?
Civil war, Iraqis don't seem to want it anymore. A period of Sunnis killing Shiites and bodies in the streets, they had that for 2006, 2007. Unless there is a cataclysmic event, something that really sets off tears the fabric of society again, it is something that Iraqis tried and found incredibly distasteful and are very afraid of. What could happen and what most people expect is you're going to have a period of chaos, political assassinations, corruption, the settling of scores. So perhaps not full-scale civil war where people are killing each other house to house, but a mafia-style state where you can do whatever you want and there is not a lot of law and order.
NBC's tireless chief foreign correspondent, Professor Richard Engel. Richard, again, thank you for the discomfort of staying up this late for us. It's great to see you. Thank you.
It's a pleasure. Thank you.